So I have a very short intro to the next talk, which is to describe the general framework of the logic tree for the Diablo Canyon sources, the ground motion characterization logic trees for Diablo Canyon sources. Again, this will look very familiar for those who've been here for the last 2 days. And as Nick indicated, we have two basic seismic source classes, nearby strike slip faults and nearby reverse faults, in which the Diablo Canyon site will be sitting on or very near the hanging wall, or on the hanging wall side, and most likely, most in the cases, actually on top of the ruptures. And what was I going to say? And and again, we do not need to build models for the footwall side. There's another thought that disappeared. We will go through the same process as we described yesterday in terms of starting out with a set of candidate models that are appropriate from that, and build from that a suite of ground motion models. These are the basic sets of models that will be considered, and they'll be talked about a little more in later talks this morning about why certain models are included in the two different source classes. So I won't go into that now. We will be building, again, the same type of logic tree structure where we'll be developing potential alternative sets of data for which to compare against the models. We will then build a suite of models by reparameterization to a common form of the set of candidate models. And as we discussed, I think maybe the day before, the Grazer and Calkin model will be carried along as a separate model because it will not fit into the standard form, but it is certainly appropriate for consideration in especially the strike slip case for Diablo Canyon. So it may be carried as its own form through this process. And as I understand, Nick will be presenting, we went through some initial analysis of this, which will be discussed later, and we have actually sensitivity to a set of candidate models selected out of the cloud of 1,000 models generated from the models. So part of Nick's sensitivity. There will be some additional special effects which will be potentially captured in the Diablo Canyon assessment. One of the main ones being the effects of directivity. And so we'll have an evaluation of whether or not we should include additional directivity, whether we need to, or whether it's captured inside of NGA or the actual ground motion models now. And then if so, there may be some epistemic uncertainty on that if it's an important contributor. So we may have uncertainty branches down at this point on actual characterization of that model. And then we will have so this will all be representing the median models, and as is for all the other cases, then we'll have separately an assessment of the epistemic uncertainty on the auditory variability. So we will have, cases, magnitude dependent, magnitude independent possible cases, as well as we discussed yesterday, the inclusion of alternatives, whether we have heavy-tailed branches or as an alternative, or as perhaps the only or the preferred and only form in the model, and then some assessment of the epistemic uncertainty on the actual values of auditory variability. So this will be the general framework for the strike slip set, and a very similar form for the reverse hanging wall effect set. I think that's it. So basic same structure as the other sources, the primary difference being explicit inclusion of a directivity, because we're basically very close to well-defined, or reasonably well-defined fault sources. Any questions?
So you've seen this one a few times as well. No, I think we're in good shape. All right.